Hello there, traders, and welcome back to TOGS Trading Podcast, TOGS number 38, and also the end of Season 2. Thanks very much for joining us. What are we here to talk about today? We're talking about scaling your trading business, okay? So that actually covers quite a bit. So we're going to touch upon quite a few elements to do that. Really what I want to be able to get across to you is about sort of really shifting from being an amateur with a hobby towards being a professional with a business, and what are the sort of things you need to sort of take on board when you're doing that to help give you some insight, okay, and some of our shared experiences about what needs to happen for you to be able to do that. So, as always, I am joined by my good pal, Big Ian, in Dublin there. Looking good, Billy Ray. How are you doing?
Thank you very much. Oh, fine. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. How's life?
Okay. I have nothing to complain about at the moment. Was away last weekend. Luckily, not going away this weekend, and then I'm going to Scotland the weekend after, which seems.
So you are.
Yes. So I'll pack some Irish whiskey because I don't like that Scotch stuff.
You're a shocker. You're a shocker. You're an absolute disgrace. How are we friends and stuff? How can you not love the joy and the beauty that is Scottish single malt, especially, which I'll be having a good bit of it this weekend because it's Burns night, and my family we're running our own one and stuff. So that will be an enjoyable evening full of finest Scottish single malt.
Well, actually, coincidentally, Dumfries, which used to be his home or something, Burns.
Yeah, that'd be right. Yeah, that
so
neck of the woods and stuff.
We're just staying outside Dumfries. We're going over to pick up my wife's goddaughter in the car and bring her back to Ireland. So that's basically our big trip: 3.5 hours in the car and 2 hours in
the ferry. Yeah. There you go, little road trip, little adventure. Nothing wrong in that. Nothing wrong in that at all. So anyway, how's trading been going? How have the market's been treating you in this?
All right, actually, because I was looking at some of the stuff
we find ourselves in.
It's been well. That's been a big week with him. It's been okay, to be quite honest with you. In fact, I was looking at something which I just realised I had a better that I could cut down the amount of setups I was actually taking during the day and just concentrate on a couple more, because they you know, the way the market changes every so often, it does something slightly different.
Yeah.
And it's just been interesting to two specific setups really well. And if I just concentrate those two setups, which is actually a thing you have to do if you are scaling up, which is the subject of today's thing, then, it's going to be quite good. And a lot of it, the reason why it has been doing so well is because it's been in an uptrend. And basically overall it's been in an uptrend. And it's a far easier job trading uptrends than it is trading downtrends, because you tend to get everything's cleaner. And I was thinking actually during the day that I tend to at least emotionally believe better in longs than I do in shorts. Shorts always a little bit, because shorts can be a little bit messy at times.
Yeah.
And where longs tend to, it's the same which I think I said before, which is, if you, even in yourself and anything you do, if you're not buying a pair of shoes, you plan the purchase of your shoes. And then if they catch fire and they start melting, you throw them away really quickly. And that's the whole thing of buying and shorting, is that people will plan, I'm going to go long in this here.
Yeah.
And then when things start to go wrong, then they just have to get rid of them. So,
Well, there you go. That's interesting, how we differ, because I've often said it here and elsewhere. I love shorting. All right, it's a knife fight in a phone box, and I like getting up close and shivving the other guy. That's what it is. It's probably giving some deep, dark insight into the inner workings of my mind. But that's a totally different podcast. That is, Ian. That's a totally different podcast. But I do recognise that. I do recognise lots of people actually have trouble going short, and lots of people are very wedded to being long only. I mean, there's lots of funds that are literally just long only and stuff. So part of that is about, understanding why are you wedded to that? Is it just some sort of strange kind of bias that you have, or what is driving in that today as you get on better at understanding yourself. So
I just think I'm cheerful and optimistic.
I'm
such a cheerful person that I just want the market to go up, because it's so nice for everybody when the market goes up. So I don't want to be that other person who's shorting on the other side. I think it's so much nicer when it goes up. So much
Well,
nicer
yeah,
for me.
listen,
And I'm also,
as I said, I like shorting, but I'm also very, very
mm,
aware that markets,
mm,
over time will rise, and we have an optimism view as far fuels all of that.
mm,
So I'm not in any way, was it naive to that fact? It's just, and maybe that's a
mm,
reflection of my kind of rather callous comment earlier, is that a short is a close in short term move. All right, I'm not expecting the market to roll over and fall back to zero. Okay, I'm expecting it. Maybe it's probably more
mm,
a retrace, but there is an opportunity there. I can get in, get my business done, and be out and gone, and
mm.
that kind of suits me. So suits my personality.
Well, actually, it
So
was the thing I
once
was
again,
just
make of that what you will.
actually, it was the thing I was thinking about during the week. I was going to mention it later on in a different thing, but I think as well. I think as I'm getting older, I tend to be a lot lazier as a trader. I just don't want the hassle. I just want the money. I mean, if they could just send me a check every week, I it's just as seemingly happily, And I think that's what happens an awful lot of because an awful lot of professional traders are middle-aged men. Nearly all the professional traders I know are middle-aged men
Mm.
because a lot of them came to it as a second profession. So what I find an awful lot of them start doing is the day trader guys. A significant proportion of them actually go to swing trading
Yeah.
because swing there's a couple of good things with it. One is because they have a background in day trading when they're actually entering and managing the early parts of a trade. They're magic because they're professionally doing this for years, managing these early parts of trades. Um, and then after that, it's like the setups are virtually the same. They're just bigger setups.
Mm.
And then it doubles their time in the market because or more than doubles their time in the market because you have the overnight, for
Yeah.
price to be moved. So an awful lot of people I notice who were professional day traders move to swing, and it is literally because of that sort of slowing down a little bit or something. It's a thing.
Yeah.
And I think that that's part of the reason why I also have a long bias because I just don't want to work for my money. I just want to take the trades that have the edge that give me what I want. That's all. Yeah, because you can size up. I mean, if you have an edge, you can size up. Anyway, maybe we
Yeah.
should actually move on and talk about the
Well,
actual subject
I
of today's
I was
one.
going to say that kind of does lead us into part of
Yeah,
our main topic for today, which is
yeah.
all about scaling your trading business. All right. So, as I said at the start, scaling your trading business, that's a broad church. That all right. Okay. There's a whole spectrum
Mm.
there that you could look at and cover. Okay, in terms of understanding. So we can't probably touch on all of it, but we'll give our own particular take on it. So I suppose if I set the scene, I've got a few elements to it. Firstly, in my experience, okay, trading, coaching, working with traders, is that the vast majority of retail traders, they are undercapitalized. All right, they're undercapitalized for their goals and objectives. Certainly, okay, they fall for the marketing nonsense that they're going to turn a £2,000 account into a 100 grand account overnight and stuff, and that's going to basically be the answer to all their problems. Um, having said that, I'm a great believer that anything is possible. Anything is possible, but the probabilities of you achieving that are so small that they generally just aren't worth considering. So, generally, retail traders, they are undercapitalized. So then it's about actually, well, what do you do about that? All right, what do you do about that? Do you keep your day job, right, which is what I normally suggest to most people, all right, until you're in a position. B, do you find external capital? And that in itself, okay, is that I think we've covered that maybe in one of our previous ones, and if not, we'll do it in season 3. But actually, just external capital. Now, even external capital, there's lots of different pathways. You've got friends and family, okay, at one end, and then you've got what term themselves as prop funds at the other end. They're not in terms of the way I would think of proprietary trading, but anyway, we are where we are. I appreciate I'm like King Canute there, trying to hold back a tide that everybody thinks that there's that prop funding money. And then in the middle, there is in itself just basically, going out and getting yourself, building let's say a professional hedge fund that allows you to be funded. So there are lots of different pathways to that. But the starting point is, before you start scaling up your trading business, starting point is actually start treating it as a business. I've said for many, many years, you are either an amateur with a hobby or you're a professional with a business. That is your choice as a trader. We all have hobbies, okay? We all have hobbies, whatever they may be, but you generally tend to spend money on your hobbies and you look to make money from your business. and trading should be the same way. Okay, and that's a choice. It's a conscious choice that you get to make. Maybe you do like trading as a bit of a hobby. Maybe it gives you a little bit of, engagement in the market, something to talk down about the pub, etc. It gives you a little bit of stimulation. Fine, absolutely fine. All right, if that's the way you want to go, no bother. But equally, if you're gonna look to do this, for the rest of your days and do it in a profitable manner, you need to start treating it like a business. And I think that's probably our starting point about, what do we need to do to start treating it like a business so that we can scale up our trading business. Is that a fair starting point, Ian?
Yeah, it is. The first thing I was thinking about undercapitalized, it depends on what type of trading you're doing, how much capital you have. I have comparatively to a swing trader, I have actually quite a small account because I'm churning it all the time. It's always been moving. It's always been worked.
Yeah.
Money is always available from someplace. If you're a good trader, money there is infinitely more money than there are good traders. And every year they print more money, but they don't really create traders at the same pace.
Totally, 100% agree with you there. Yeah.
Compared to scaling up, borrowing money from friends and family and then trading it is difficult because you have two things. You have a complete change in your psychology because now you have people watching you who are in your life. And then if you are undercapitalized, what's your rush? It's one of the things I always find a big problem. And I remembered as well when I started off first, and then I sat down and I had my account. And I had quite a large account when I started off, bigger account actually when I started off than I have now because I don't need it. And I started realizing if I made 40-50% in the year, which was at the time I was starting off doing swing like everybody else, and 40-50% in swing in a year is outstanding. I couldn't replace the income that I had from what I was doing before. So that was kind of a sobering moment. And then you do get into that little panic because you're trying to achieve a goal, and you start to see that this goal is going to take you 10 years. But the thing is that over those 10 years, you have to make a commitment to trading that you're going to be in it for life. And then over those 10 years, your skills will grow and you will eventually get what you want if you stick to it. With scaling up, it just reminded me of the scene. There's a film called Leon with Jean-Luc something or other. And he's teaching... Yeah, he's teaching the young girl how to kill people, and he's
Natalie
Portman, yeah. And then he was saying, you start off with a rifle, then you move to the pistol as you improve, and you can get closer to your target, and then you finish off with a knife, and that's scaling up. Because the thing is that by the time scaling up really actually is a problem in your trading, you are a successful trader. You're probably in the top 2% of traders in the world before this actually really becomes a problem, because if you do it too soon, you're just going to blow up. So you have you have 90% of the work done. This is almost the last stage before you get to where you're going. So, it's one of the most threatening things you can do to your account is sizing up. And you have to be ready. Basically you have to be in terms of skill ready. The position size, because every time you add to your position size, it changes your psychology.
Mm-hmm.
Because and it does it in one of a couple of ways. One is that one of the things I find when I change up position size is that I start, because I'm used to making, a kind of an idea. I might make, we say, 5 points in a trade. And I know what 5 points is worth to me. So if I had one contract, that's 5 points, or 5 points are worth whatever they are. If I have two contracts, suddenly I'm making what I normally make on half the move. And there's a little bit of a pain there where you sort of want to get out of that trade because you've made enough money that you're actually quite happy with. And then on the other side, when price goes against you and you have to take a little bit of heat, and you say it goes 5 points the other side, you're now you've lost twice as much as you normally would lose. And then part of the problem, which I find as well sometimes, and I've seen with other traders, is then they get one or two losses during the afternoon at their new position size and then go back to their old position size, which is actually a bit detrimental, because then you can't make up for the loss that you have had in your bigger position size, and it actually causes a lot of distress.
Yeah, it does.
The right position size is a position size which is big enough for you to care about.
Yeah.
Because if it's not big enough for you to care about, you'll end up gambling and you'll end up doing silly things basically in the market. If I had to go now and trade for a euro or whatever it is, you're going to end up just taking risk. You're going to do entertainment trades because what are you going to lose? A tenner? 12 something. So it has to be big enough that you have to care about it, but it also cannot be too big that it causes you fear. And that's because causing fear then is the root of all your trading problems. You're over trading, you're under trading, you're not pulling the trigger. Everything basically links back to fear.
It's discussed last week. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one of the biggest things that I find with changing your position size. And it's the one thing that you have to put your emotions first. It's like, an awful lot of things are maths in trading. I make X amount of points from this. This has a risk reward of whatever. But when you're scaling up, it's an emotional thing, and it's because the maths is done. If you can get the fills in your chosen instrument, if the fills are okay, basically, because some things you can go into that they're just really thin. I remember, as I told a story before about Gunnan, I used to buy this. I had this share, and I was trying to get rid of 10,000, 5,000 shares. It wasn't a huge amount of shares, but I had to sell it off in little lumps of 100 because I moved the price. And then I'd have to wait for a few minutes for the price to sort of recover, and then sell another little lump, and then wait for the price to recover, and then sell another little lump to try and get out of it. So if you can't get fills often put a cap on everything anyway, especially especially if you're trading those sort of small cap things.
Yeah. I would look at this as kind of as two elements. What you're talking about there is scaling up your trading, and then also I would determine differently is also scaling up your business. So you're absolutely right. When it comes to like scaling up your trading, part of that is about position sizing and managing it to a level, as you just said there, that it helps you rather than hinders you, and that your mistakes steer you rather than sink you. And you're absolutely right that people try to scale up their trading far too quickly. Normally because of I think we've discussed before, completely external factors. All right, they hate their life, they hate their job, they hate their relationship, they hate their car, whatever it is, and they want trading to basically to be the solution to that. And so they scale up. They get a little sliver of success, and then they just scale up far too quick, too fast, and they basically now show up and they blow up. Whereas actually scaling up your trading is a slow burn process. It will go at different paces for every individual based upon your situation. All right, okay, your commitments, your responsibilities, your personality, your lifestyle, etc. But it just generally tends to sort of just chip away there, and it never happens. It never happens as fast as you want it to happen. All right, okay, everybody wants to go from trading £2 a point to £2,000 a point. All right, you can get there, and you will get there, but it takes a much lower, and you will find your own plateaus along that way. That's just part of the journey for everybody in terms of scaling up the trading business. And I think we talked about this before. We talked about this earlier. Is that sometimes we see there's an awful lot of nonsense marketed to people from supposed trader coaches, supposed mentors, about how they're gonna help you scale your trading in 6 weeks. You're going to scale to six figures in 6 weeks, etc. and stuff. And I think most of that is just utter garbage, isn't it?
No, absolutely is. Because that's one thing as well I've seen trading coaches push their and in marketing push their students too fast.
Yep.
Because it suits them, because there's one or two things that they do is by having this sort of aggressive sizing up strategy, they can sell that. They can say, oh yeah, as soon as you make £5, we'll make £20.
Yeah.
And that might work for marketing, but it doesn't work in the long term because
totally.
Because one of the things I found with sizing up is that it's a totally organic experience.
Yep, totally organic. Absolutely.
You just get bored. You just get bored. And that position size, you sort of conquer it, and then you're sitting there and you're looking, and you start gambling a little bit, or you do something
Yep.
silly, and then you realize that you have to keep smachting on yourself, as they say in Irish, to keep yourself in line. You have to increase your position size. And also,
Yeah.
another thing there when you were talking as well is that you can't compare yourself to other traders.
Yep.
Because I saw a post on one of these Facebook groups, and the guy had, oh, this trader was successful after 4 years. This trader, famous traders, took them
Yep.
4 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it was. And you can't compare yourself to them because you don't know what resources they had.
Totally.
They might have had the right
Totally.
parents. They might have had
Yep.
mentors. They might have got into the right business. Their education might be the right way. And then they might just be built that way. And in some ways,
Exactly.
it's like trying to compare yourself. If you were going to a speed dating thing and there was a 27-year-old Brad Pitt and that guy has advantages and is going to do better than you. And he's going to do better faster
Yourself,
than you.
Ian.
So that's
Speak
how
for yourself.
best of luck there,
Like a
really.
challenge.
Well, I am taller than him.
I don't know why.
There's nothing else. It's yeah. And he's probably, who knows? I don't know.
Dollars only.
Could be very dull in real life. Like, it's just, not that I think. I've thrown off slightly there. Yeah.
Just throwing your train of thought there, and I do apologise.
Yeah. So anyway, so you just can't compare yourself to other traders. So you can't put yourself under pressure. There's no way you can put yourself under pressure because, and the other thing too is that everybody bloody lies. This whole business, as from going from the side of mentoring, and talking to people, and then they send you a message, and then you read through their stuff, and it possibly can't. It's an impossibility that what they're doing is working for them, unless they're doing it on a simulator. Oftentimes, you get stuff that works on simulator that just won't work live because of fees and other stuff.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
Just sorry to interject there. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You can't compare yourself to other people, but you will because we're human and we do. All right. What I'm saying is that trading challenging enough as it is, you do not need any other reasons or excuses to beat yourself up. Okay, what's that saying that comparison is the thief of joy? You are human, you are going to do it, but ultimately, the race is long and hard, but it's only with yourself. All right, it's about you being better than you were last week. That's the thing to focus on. You're on that process, and just focus on being a better trader tomorrow than you were last week. Okay, and that is progress at your own particular pace.
The other thing I was saying, just to allude to it again, is that an awful lot of pro traders, they just hit a level and never progress beyond that level in terms of size. And I can kind of see why, because if you have a good income, it was just somebody one of the days was talking about one of the things, and he was saying, well, it's 8 points. What was it, like 8 points, 3 contracts is $300,000 a year. Something I can't remember what the exact thing was, where I went, oh yeah, that's right, because I hadn't thought about it enough times, and they make quite enough money. And they just don't need the stress, to move up to the next level. And that's what you find an awful lot of time at the sort of pro level, is that you get an awful lot of guys, and you might know them, they're not the massive, they could be the massive earners if they wanted to be, but they just don't have that drive, as an awful lot of pro traders were successful in that I know anyway, were successful in something else before they started at this at all. They were doing something else. They were financially no more than myself. Like, I was reasonably financially well off by the time I came to trading in the first place. I came to trading in the first place because I couldn't find a way to invest money that was working. And I decided I better do it myself, and I needed a new career anyway. So that was one big motivator for me coming into trading. And so you get an awful lot of guys who don't really need the extra. They don't need the extra money. They don't need the extra hassle. Because I think after a certain level of income, anyway, your life doesn't improve that much.
Yeah, no. Well, I was actually talking to somebody about this this morning, this very thing and stuff about, of course, especially when you're a young lad. I'm only talking the vast majority of people I deal with in that case, but they're driven by that. They're driven by that money. They're driven by that kind of the dollar signs, the pound signs. But actually, very quickly you realise, I've said it before, is that actually, certainly for me, autonomy is much more important than another zero in the bank. Actually the ability to live your life by your own rules on your own kind of by your own schedule is hugely sort of more attractive, and that does link in to the overall conversation in the sense of you're talking about scaling your business, your trading business. Now, of course, if you have got a good track record, you could go and work for a fund. Okay, I've done it a couple of times myself. And people always say, "Oh, that must be fantastic," and they're always a bit surprised when I answer, be careful what you wish for, all right? Because working for those funds, they will get their pound of flesh from you, all right? They will get their pound of flesh from you, and whatever you make, all right, however good you are, it's never enough, all right? It's never enough. They always want more from you. They always want more from you, okay? And some people, like myself, who have got that kind of real deep in a competitive streak, love that. But for a lot of other people, that is not an environment that is conducive to operating effectively in a sustainable manner as a trader. So it is a route to go down to build a track record and get picked up by somebody else. That is definitely a route, and I've done it. I can speak about it. But all I would say is just be careful what you wish for, all right? Okay, the opportunity is fantastic. But, as the American president Teddy Roosevelt said, with victory comes great sacrifice, and there will be a price to be paid in one way or another. You need to understand and recognise that. Go in with open eyes. What I would suggest is that the vast majority of people these days, which perhaps wasn't available to us in the same way, not in the same way, is that, of course, now that there are a lot of prop firms, all right, that give you the opportunity to basically to test yourself and show yourself capable of being funded. Now, we did one on these, didn't we? It was like a good while back now, I think, and stuff. Just literally on prop firms, were they actually worth it and stuff? Here we go and stuff. We did. Crikey, we've covered a lot of these things in here and stuff. There we go. TOGS 18, the 20 TOGS, 20 podcasts to go there and stuff, which was just all about prop firms and are they worth it? So by all means, feel free to check that out. But I can understand that for many traders I see these days, rather than putting let's say £2,000 into a trading account to start their trading journey, well, these days that might get them four tickets for $100,000 evaluations as accounts and stuff and what have you, meaning that if they pass the evaluation, they're going to get themselves what they think is access to $100,000 or $1,000 trading account. It isn't, all right. It isn't. What you're actually getting access to is the risk they give you. So if you might have a 100,000 account, but your total drawdown might be 6%. So in that case, what you've actually got is you've paid $500 to get a £6,000 trading account. Really, that's the way I would look at it. But others may differ. But it is a way to scale up, and I can understand why so many people are drawn towards it. But once again, that in itself is an avenue which you need to be utterly prepared for, and you need to address it and embrace it in the correct style. But have you done any prop firm challenges, Ian? Have you?
No. Yeah, I never bothered with them, to quite honestly, because I was adequately funded at the time, and also it's a particular type. They're designed for you to fail. So it's a particular type of trading which works really well for those. Now that happens to be the type of trading we do. So I would imagine I would do okay with one of them, but it's just not my. Just at the moment, it's just not my cup of tea. It just never crossed my mind. Never crossed my mind to do it, because I started off, I had a big enough account, and also the other thing too is, as you say, it allows me to come and go as I want, and I have a young son, so I come and go a lot. Like yesterday, I had to quit early to go and pick him up from school. There was some sort of, the person who was supposed to pick them up wasn't able to do it, that kind of stuff. Where I don't think that would work as well with prop firms, because I can miss a trade, and it's not going to affect me really, except the fact it's slightly annoying. But if I was doing that for a prop firm, that really could have an effect or cause me to get kicked out. One of the things I was thinking as well about prop firms, I trained as an accountant for a couple of years, which I was absolutely dismal at and I hated it. But I remember going over I worked in Deutsche Bank and I went over to get something in one of the big accountancy firms. I went over to collect something over there, walked over to their office, and it was like a battery farm. And I remember being downstairs chatting to some guy smoking a cigarette outside down in the car park. And he'd been up all night doing accounts. And at the time, he's all like, I'm so tough. I was up all night and I come into work this morning. And I was thinking that an awful lot of these things, including hedge funds, are pulling the wool over young men's eyes in that they're promising this type of lifestyle. They watch all this. They all think it's going to be billions, the TV show. And it just ends up being a battery farm. And they to a certain extent, exploit the sort of enthusiasm, the ability to work long hours that young people have. And they're frankly, a lot of the time, they're underpaid for what they're doing. I mean, you'd want to have one hell of a record, like to command, command the income that you should have, really, to be quite honest, because you do have a set of skills, and it is a rare set of skills, but it's not that rare either. There are people walking around who are able to do what you are doing. So I never entered my head, and to be quite honest with you, I kind of regretted as well that I didn't go down that route at the beginning, just to have a look at it and see what it was like when I had that sort of, those first couple of years where you're not that pushed about yourself. You're sort of just doing it and go in and see how it all works. But a lot of the time, a lot of those businesses I've seen, they're just battery farms.
They are. I suppose the kind of the message that I would like to get across to people, the kind of the takeaway that I'd want people to sort of really pick up on is, regardless of whether you're trading personal account, whether you're trading prop firm money, or rather whether you are working for a fund or picked up to be funded, it is about conduct yourself as if you were a business, all right? Conduct yourself as your business. And the reason the way you do that is, first and foremost, is the way you conduct yourself in terms of making sure that you are managing risk first and foremost, and that you're also recording everything. Okay, those are kind of like the simplest building blocks, all right, that you need to. You're managing risk every single session that you are in front of your screens, and that you're basically recording all of the data, recording all of the trader. And then if you're smart, you'll also debrief that trade and you'll mine it to basically help improve you. These are the things that like conducting yourself as a business. And then out of that, well, then other stuff grows in terms of the way you prepare yourself. Okay, the way you have a tactical trading plan. You'll have a strategic business plan. Okay, that's what I kind of try and get across to people. That doesn't mean that if you're building a business plan, that doesn't mean it needs to be, mine's about 80 pages, but it doesn't need to be. All right, it can be one page, but it is about you starting to basically get very, very clear on you operate as a business. As I said, you have a choice. You're either an amateur with a hobby or a professional with a business. And even just starting with one sheet of paper and understanding, why are you doing this? All right, why actually are you really doing it? And digging into that. What are you going to do? All right, what are you going to do in terms of how you're going to particularly trade? Ian talked earlier about, how lots of them become swing traders. I'll talk about my own experience with that, okay, a little bit later. But also the how. All right, how are you going to do this? All right, how are you going to do this? From the simplest things to your IT setup, to your disaster recovery, to your backup plans. All right, to actually how you are going to engage with markets, what your actual trade setups are, how they operate, how they work. All of these things, okay, are the sort of pieces that you need to start putting in place. Doesn't necessarily need to be there from day one, all right? It is an organic process. It will grow with you, but you need to treat it as a business, okay? There's nobody I know, whether I have worked alongside them on trading floors or coached them or mentored them or had dealings with them anyway, there are none of them that I know that like treat it like a hobby, all right? They are all on top of their game, right? They're all at their business. You can treat it like a hobby and you'll get lucky. Everybody gets a little bit of luck now and then, but, hope and luck are not strategies, all right, for long-term sustainable success as a trader or investor. You need to treat it as a business, okay? You need to treat it as a business. You need to get to grips with it, and you need to start doing it. It is more than just basically, finding the best setup and taking for it. There's a whole host more to it, right? And it is the message that I would definitely try to get across to people to take away, right? Treat it like a business, okay? It's a choice, right? A choice. And as I've often said, my view of trading is that money is just money flow from amateurs to professionals. And I don't mean that by amateurs being retail and professional being institutional. I have spent time on institutional trading floors, and some of the way that people conducted themselves was utterly amateurish. And I've actually worked with and seen, guys and girls who are, trading £2,000 spread betting accounts in the sat on the edge of the bed and stuff. Okay, but the way they conduct themselves is unbelievably professional. It's a pleasure to see them, right? But of course, they're undercapitalized. So the choice is yours, ladies and gentlemen. All right, and that's the ultimate thing I want you to take away. Are you an amateur with a hobby, or are you a professional with a business? Okay, be honest with yourself. Be honest. If you have been in the past, if you've been an amateur with a hobby, that's fine. We all start somewhere. We all learn it, but it's up to you now to make a choice. All right, going forward, am I going to be an amateur with a hobby, or am I going to be a professional with a business?
What I was thinking there with the undercapitalized just was trying to find a way to express it. You're going to be undercapitalized for a length of time, but while you're becoming not undercapitalized, you're growing a bank of skills. Anyway, I express it in a completely different way, because for me it's just cutting out the shit, basically. Because what you find an awful lot of amateur traders, people who are on the primary problem I find with a lot of the guys is that they're on their own. And they're sitting in their house or their sitting room or their bedroom or whatever, and they're tapping away on their keyboard, and they're on their own. And that means there's no pressure on top of them. There's no monitoring. There's no anything on top of them. So what they end up doing is just creating busy work, doing this style drift. There's one guy and he's 15 years style drifting. Every week, I could use this indicator. I could use that indicator. And you're like, oh, it's concentrating, and you will never progress until you concentrate and do one thing well, and you only have to beat the market in one place. You need one setup which is repeatable in a liquid market, which happens with the frequency and with the risk reward that you require. Because sometimes if it's only going to turn up once a year, it mightn't work for you. But if it's going to turn up once a day, or once a week, it might work for you. So that's what you're looking for, and you have to cut out all the extraneous stuff, and just concentrate on what you're doing. Anyway, what was I going to say with the growing your position size? You have to know how bad it can get for you, because you have to work out as your account going to survive. So basically, you have to know from record keeping how bad it can get. So, as I've said before, you could have a 70% success rate in your trades. So 7 trades work, 3 trades don't work. But that doesn't mean how they're going to be dispersed. So you can have 7 winners, 3 losers, and then the 3 losers of the next 10 straight afterwards. So you can have 6 losers in a row. So that's great if you're at small size, your account can easily absorb that. But if that's the limit of how bad things can get for you, if you size up too much and those 6 trades could destroy your account, you can't size up. One thing I found with contracts, even with MES contracts, like the micro contracts, you start with 1 contract, obviously. Then you move to 2 contracts, but that's a doubling of size. It's not a lot of a doubling in size, but it's a doubling in size nonetheless. So it's actually sometimes it's much easier to get somebody to size up on a spread better, where they can just throw on 25 extra P onto their trade, and they could do it in little increments of 10% or 20% or whatever it is. But with contracts, sometimes it can actually be quite a jump. It's it's a thing. Also, one way of adding, or sorry, with scaling up is can add to a trade. In other words, what I've found over the years is that I don't necessarily always buy just at the one price. So I might scale into it a little bit below, and that gives me the ability to get a better price. Basically, you're still taking heat, but you're getting a better price as time goes on. So it just doesn't have to mean that you have to buy at that one spot. You can widen it up slightly. You don't have to scale up every setup. Everybody has one or two setups that are really good if you're a professional trader and you're at that stage where you're scaling up. So you don't have to just pile a bunch of contracts onto your sketchiest one, because that won't work. You're starting place. One strategy I have used in the past is, so we say you go out and you make $1,000, right? To use a number, and you can scale up. And as long as you increase that, you can use that as a buffer. If you're not living off it, and by the time you're getting to the scaling up stage, you're probably not living, because when you're starting to scale up, you've just got to the end of your primary learning phase. You have your setup, you're professional about it, you're consistent, you're all these things. Now you're scaling up, but you're probably still not living off the money. So you can afford to do these things. Because one thing I always have to say about money and trading, you can't think of money in trading as real money, because it's not real money until you take it out and spend it. It's risk capital. And it's one of the things I think that people, if you drink, especially Irish people, if I went to the dentist, it cost me €100. But Christmas is coming, I better get down to the off license. And they'll see things for, like, I saw a bottle of expensive wine the last day, which was down from 220 to 120, and it killed me to leave the shop without it. So you can't think about. It was really good. It was a really good deal, actually, but I have some of it from years ago, so I didn't want to get more of it. So you can't think about it as real money. So you can use that €1,000. You go and you make your profit, and then you can scale up and put an extra contract on. And if you lose that €1,000, then you go back to your old position size and you start again, because then you're conserving your capital. You're playing with the house money effectively, and I think that's. If your setups have any element of guessing or intuition in it, it's actually really hard to scale, because I do a lot of intuitive trading. It's hard to scale up an intuitive trade because it's intuitive. You're believing in the trade. It doesn't necessarily mean that that this trade has the same, like I have like 3 good setups with defined edge, and I know exactly when they trigger, what they're going to do for me, and whatever, and how to act and all the ways up. But a lot of the trades are, well, we're in an uptrend and we've just we've had a little pullback and it's holding a micro and it's given the signal. Sure, I'll pop on here and I'll buy a couple of contracts and see how I do. But that's basically all you can do with those is you can't scale those up that much, because they're intuitive. I think you have to know trends. I think one of the biggest things are a lot of the guys that made, you see these outliers, that made huge amount of money in a year. They had 16p and they suddenly had 10 million by the end of the year. What they did is that the primary thing that they did was understand they were in a trend.
Yep.
They understood the market that they were in. And the thing is that once you understand that market and you understand that the trend is going in a certain direction, like if you understand the trend is going up, and you're willing to, if you understand that implicitly, that's part of your makeup to understand those things. Then you can, if you're that type of person, it depends on your psychology. Then you can major time size up and potentially make a fortune. But the guys who have, because they have two things in equal measure, which most traders don't. One is they have the discipline and skill. although I hate the word discipline. But anyway, they have the skill and supposed discipline to trade properly, but they're also gamblers. So they're willing to take the risk. Most traders are either ill-disciplined, unskilled, and a gambler, which means they last 2 weeks, or they're highly disciplined and highly skilled, and they're afraid of their shit, basically, when they go out and they try to trade. And then they will survive forever on a mediocre level of profit, until something happens where they want to move or something like that. And that's what I find. I find that scaling up can also mean just taking your best setup and doing it in another market as well.
Yep.
That to me is the thing. So like I do oil, and I do the same setup in oil and ES. Not always in if I have the capacity to do it in oil on the day. So basically I have twice as much money in the market, but it's two separate setups. It's the same setup twice, so that is yeah.
I would have no idea what, if any, correlation there is between oil and the SCL and the ES and stuff. Whether that's how exactly correlated they are. It's not something I've ever really given consideration to and stuff. But as to whether, if you're taking two trades at the same time, and then are you effectively taking the same trade, or is there a reason for a divergence and difference in there?
Well, the correlation in it is basically, there is actually a certain amount of correlation between the two of them. They do tend to move on a small level. On the sort of like 5-minute level, beneath that, they tend to move sometimes in tandem. Other than that, there isn't. I wouldn't say that there's a massive correlation. You don't get turning points in the same place, all that kind of thing, but you get the same. It's all technical analysis.
Yeah.
It's all it has its own particular personality. I mean, oil tends to trend. If you get into oil because it's thinner than ES, so you can get into if you get into ES with one contract, you're going to get out of that relatively with very little or very minor amounts of slippage or any of that kind of thing. But where if you get into oil, you could lose 4 ticks in your when you're just getting rid of even a single full-size contract. So it's basically what it is. It doesn't mean that you're doing the same setup at the same time. You're just doing the same setup because it's all technical analysis, and everything basically ranges. Because if you take, like, they don't have a school for special school for oil traders and then a special school for ES traders. It's the same guys who have the same basic training, doing basically the same job, and each individual thing, same currencies, like the dollar yen is different to the euro dollar. Their own personalities based on the how liquid they are.
Yeah.
And liquidity, the amount of volume in it, volume makes clean markets, in my own opinion. Like, something I would see is that it is the more volume you have, often the better behaved I find the market is. So you find sometimes with with low volume markets or low volume shares, they'll break support, for example, because basically there isn't the volume there to soak up somebody doing something stupid. So they come to support, they might break support and then recover, basically, but that could stop you out. That can cause you distress. Like one of the basic things in my setups is that if I'm going long, I have to see resistance broken. So in some of these low volume markets, resistance can break, but it doesn't really. It's kind of a full break, I find, and that makes them a little bit difficult, I think, really, that makes them a little bit difficult to trade. But it's more or less all the same stuff. You're just doing it in a second market. You know, the DAX is kind of the same. Shares are kind of the same. That's one of the other things as well, is that I always find intraday in shares is not generally as clean as it is in the ES, because there's nobody's making money. Not that many people are making money on the intraday in a lot of shares. So the most money is made on the daily time frame and above. And so that's where the cleanliness is. And then you go down to the 5 minute chart and it's the Wild West, you know. So it's
it's good. Intraday trading shares is not really never has really been my bag and stuff. Not really something I'm terribly interested in. But yeah. All right. Anyway, listen. Let's draw to a close, shall we? Okay. And in terms of, let's draw to a close in terms of today's session. But also, this is the end of season 2 of the TOGS Trading Podcast. Is there any final points you want to make about scaling up your trading business there, Ian, and stuff before we draw to a close? Anything that is on the tip of your tongue, waiting to express?
I'd say congratulations. You know, that's a real first world problem.
That's a good way to think of it. Yeah, that's a good way to think of it.
If you're worrying about scaling up, you know, you're sitting there. Yeah. I remember the best traders I ever know complaining that he was underfunded. You know, but he still makes tons of money. Like, so basically, it's such a, you know, compared to the 99% of people who eventually lose money. You know, that's spectacular. Clap yourself in the back for having all these. You know, you're having the same problem as Brad Pitt at a speed dating.
Yeah, well, he is. Yeah. By the way, let's not go. That's a very different podcast. All right. No, those are good points and stuff. And I suppose, you know, I would take away that you do have to treat it like a business. All right, that is your choice. You're either an amateur with a hobby or a professional with a business. I know I've said it about 5 times, but that's because I want to basically sort of just ram it home, okay, that this is what you need to take on. You need to take on board and stuff. But as Ian said earlier, you know, scaling your trading and scaling your business is kind of you know, it should be organic. All right, don't force it. All right, it will happen. You just need to sort of basically keep chipping away, and it will happen at your own time, at your own pace, and don't let anybody else tell you need to scale up, you know, so fast, or, you know, in a different size than is outside of your real comfort zone, because it rarely ends well. So also, as I said, this is the end. TOGS 38 is the end of season 2 of the TOGS Trading Podcast. Okay, just first thing, listen. Just thanks to everybody who basically subscribes, listens, you know, sends us messages. Okay, gives us little bits of feedback. We love it. All right, we really do. We really appreciate it, and we've had some great comments and great feedback from people, and it is always genuinely appreciated. Okay, we really like it and stuff, and so please, by all means, feel free to send us your ideas and thoughts or topics that you'd like to see us cover in season 3. We're probably going to take probably take maybe sort of a 4 to 8 week break and stuff. That is in no way coincidental that it is alongside the Rugby Six Nations. That's got nothing to do with it whatsoever, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing whatsoever. But it might be that if we do start back in sort of March, April time, that we will try and start back with a couple of socials. Or we've talked about this in sort of a couple of weeks back. And actually now it's getting spring, or rather we're hopefully getting out of the worst of winter. Well, let's put some social in that we can all meet, have a pint and a chat, because that is how the TOGS Trading Podcast actually started. All right, okay, me and Ian and a couple of other old roisters sort of meeting up for a bit of a pint and a chat about our trading experiences, and it is unbelievably beneficial. And in the same way, I hope that the TOGS Trading Podcast has been beneficial and helpful to yourselves. So thanks very much once again, okay, for liking and subscribing and joining us. Have a great few weeks, and we'll look forward to speaking to you in season 3 of the TOGS Trading Podcast. Trade well, everybody. Cheers.